You're listening to the What's Happening podcast with Gary Watts.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here with Bill Hoeft, and we're here to talk about lots of things. And the main thing is, I think about a month ago, Bill came up with a book, and it's being published. Well, it's published, it's out, it's on Amazon. When the Father Comes Out to Meet Us. So anyway, we're going to promote the book. We're also going to get to know him way better. And great to see you.
Good to see you.
Thoroughly enjoyed the book.
Thank you so much.
I mean, it was I don't know how I call it. I don't know if it's an easy read, but it's just a delightful read. It doesn't take a long time to get through it. At the end of every chapter, it makes you think and write down thoughts of your own life, what your journey is. I love that because I think it's when you're doing a book. I like the part where you can contemplate what you're saying.
Yeah.
Relate it to your own life. So anyway, I'm going to put it up again. I can't say enough about this book. So go get it, order it today. You'll love it. So
it just filled my heart with joy to hear that it touched you in that way.
Well,
and I hope it can touch a lot of other people and make them just kind of, look at themselves in sort of not a critical light, but maybe a different way. And a lot of people, I think, will see themselves in this.
Well, it's for every man.
Yeah.
It isn't, you and I mean, I when I read it, I go, oh, that's me.
Yeah.
A lot of it is.
Oh, I'm thrilled to hear that because that's who I am. I'm every man. I tried to be, I tried to be somebody I'm not, and I tried to be noticed, and I wanted people to see me, but I'm really everyone else. So these things in here are not unique to me.
And the pride, we'll get into that book, but a lot of pride which guys carry.
Huge.
It gets you in so much trouble.
Yeah, and you don't even realize it. You're just blind to it. You don't even know until you finally, somebody opens your eyes to it. Yeah,
cool.
For sure.
Well, let's start out, if you would, your background, where you came from, and then talk a little bit about your family, and then we'll roll into, maybe get into the parts of the book.
Sure.
That's okay.
Absolutely. I was born in Des Moines, 1967. I was adopted at birth, so I don't know my birth parents.
How has that been for you, to not know them? Could you know them?
I probably could, and I considered it a time or two, and then I don't know. I grew up in Des Moines. I've lived in Des Moines, or lived in Iowa most of my life. If they wanted to find me, they could find me. That's kind of how I felt. My mother was my great protector, and she was a parent that's really all I needed. My mother and in some ways my father, but also not, because there was some turbulent times when I was growing up, with alcoholism and violence in the home and things like that. So, it comes with good, it comes with bad, but overall, I don't know that I'd change anything necessarily.
How old were you when you were adopted?
I was adopted at birth. So it was all set up, I guess, sort of before she came to term, and so I don't know what other options were considered, but I was given up for adoption at birth, and my adoptive parents were.
Well, thank God for that, because just think about what goes on.
I mean, why didn't I fall off into the system like other kids, and I don't spend a lot of time thinking about that, but people, when I bring it up, people will mention, oh, that must have been hard, and I don't know, maybe I just put it past me and moved on. I'm not sure, but
So tell us about your childhood. You had your mother and father, and
so I grew up blue collar. My dad was a construction worker. He worked heavy equipment for Macinich Corporation in Des Moines, and did that for 30 years. And would leave that. He just was a fierce worker. He'd leave at 4:30 in the morning, and come back after dark. Every day, 6 days a week. I don't ever remember him being, even if he was sick, and he was sick on occasion, but he would go. It was not an option to not, to not work.
Was he a war veteran, World War II?
He served in the Navy, but he was between wars.
Okay.
So no, he wasn't actually involved in any combat. Okay. But my mother was just fiercely protective of me. And even though she was barely 5 feet tall, she was intimidating and calculating and strategic and could really be cutting and to a lot of people that weren't me, including other family members, my older sister, especially my father. So there was they really had a turbulent marriage and relationship, and which ended up being sort of a benefit to me, because even as a child, he was a non-example of a dad and and I'm sure he did his best, a dad and a husband. So I knew even as a child that that's not how I wanted to be if I was ever lucky enough. I knew that was unhealthy, and I knew that wasn't good because of how it made me feel as a kid.
Didn't have a lot of love from him, right?
Well, not outward. I mean,
Right.
like showing affection. I don't ever remember him saying he loved me, but
Right.
I know that he did. And I talk about that in the book,
Right.
pretty openly. But no, there wasn't a lot of affection that way.
How'd you know he did?
Well, I knew he did because he adopted me, and because he was there, and because he put clothes on my back and food in my stomach and gave me a place to live. I knew that. But it wasn't an outward, a lot
Show
of
of
expression
affection.
yeah, he was a humorless German, and I'm not trying to knock Germans, but I mean,
Right.
he was a prototypical German, a big burly dude and with a big voice, and and I found that out later with his wife when he passed. My mom and I left, and he remarried, and she told me that, oh yeah, he would at the bar, he would always brag about you. I didn't get any of that,
Right.
but other people did. So I knew that how he felt about me. He just
Right.
really didn't. He had a hard time showing it.
So when you were a child, it was a tough upbringing. Your mother was probably your mentor, and
She
and,
was,
and took
yeah.
care of you, and then there was a divorce or
Yeah, well,
alcoholism, you said.
it's such a windy story, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we left when I was in junior high, and then came back, and then we finally left. It would have been the first part of my junior year. Well, not quite the first part, but it was sort of prompted us and freed us up to be able to leave Des Moines when that whole situation happened, and we moved to Monroe.
And you played football at Lincoln.
I played football at Lincoln,
Right. You
and
liked football.
yeah, I loved football. That was I loved all the sports. I was a year-round athlete,
Okay.
and that was sort of my initially. Sports was a way to try to get my dad's approval. That really was what I was trying to do. But when he acknowledged it at all, it wasn't really his thing. Like, he was hard work. He was,
Right.
I work hard, I sweat, those types of things. And that wasn't really my thing. So I thought, okay, well, maybe if I'm really good at sports, then he'll like that. And it was usually came in the form of criticism, why'd you fumble? Or if you hit better, you get more playing time. And that sort of thing.
What'd you like about football? in high school?
I loved, especially being a running back, I loved that I controlled everything. So
Right.
you don't know what I'm doing, but I know what I'm doing. So I could play you like a fiddle. I love trying to figure that out, and the toughness of it, and you got to be tough, and you got to be all the stuff that you're sold on with football. I really enjoyed, and the camaraderie, and the hard work, and coming together, and
Teamwork.
all that.
How do you carry that forward to today? Do you go back and remember fourth down and
It-
playing against Dowling or whoever?
Yeah, I mean, I carry it with me. I prefer, I like team sports probably more, although through osmosis and our son, who became a wrestler, that became probably one of my favorite sports, and because I think that's the hardest sport in the world,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I would challenge anybody on that. But seeing what wrestlers go through, highly competitive wrestlers, I think that is, other than the striking sports, but wrestling is, whew.
Yeah, Austin's a wrestler here. Try to do 2 minutes. Just go out and wrestle hard for 2 minutes. I mean,
Try
you're
it for 30
totally
seconds.
exhausted. You're totally exhausted. If you're,
Yeah.
I mean, it takes every ounce of everything you got.
Yeah, it's. I've heard, and I don't know if this is true, but it's the equivalent of playing a full basketball game
Yeah.
in 7 minutes.
I believe that.
The
kind
And
of
seeing my
condition-
son do it at a high level, it's
Yeah.
it's hard enough when when you get tossed on your back and you're just counting lights every
Yeah.
time. But when you're trying to achieve a level that some of these people achieve, it's wow.
I remember I went by a door and I opened it, and the wrestlers in their practice, and the guys are sitting on the floor pulling themselves up the rope.
Yeah, yeah.
I go, okay.
Yeah.
And then the pegs on the side.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
serious stuff.
It's
And, I was
all
playing basketball, which they made fun of us all the time for playing
right,
basketball.
right. Oh yeah, that's
You know.
yeah.
So you
That's,
moved to Monroe. Tell us about that move.
well,
Lincoln.
we moved to Monroe because for no other reason than the running back ahead of me at Lincoln was an all-state running back, and there was he was a good friend of mine, and there was, other than doing him harm, there was no way I was going to beat him out, and the thought of riding the pine my senior year was just too much to take, and then just out of the blue, I had a chance meeting with a distant cousin who lived in Monroe. And I was telling him about my situation. We both played football. And he said, well, we just graduated 2 stud running backs and the position's wide open. Do you think you could move here? And at first I'm like, well, no, that would never fly. My mother would never allow that. Her job is here. Our family's here. My friends are here. We're established here. But she didn't bat an eye. And there was sort of a reason for that. So I said my father was abusive toward her. And the last time it happened was probably just a few months before that, when we finally left for good. And I attacked him. I jumped.
Was it physical?
Yeah, it was physical. And by then I'm a pretty big kid,
Yeah.
so it got very physical. And my mother realized that she had to get us out of there, or one of the two of us was going to do significant harm to the other, because I wasn't going to allow that to happen anymore. So she was open for it, but money was tight, and we moved there.
She was in accounting.
Yeah,
Or
sort of
bookkeeping.
an accountant, but tax preparation as well. She worked for a company called Beneficial, and she was very good with numbers and very good with accounting and things like that. Even though she didn't graduate from high school, she was very good with that stuff. And but the title was, she was a district tax director, but that title was way more impressive than the pay. So money was very tight, and we were looking for housing because there wasn't a lot of it in Monroe. It's a town of like 2,000 people,
Right.
and then this ice cream shop owner who had a vacant house behind, he said, "Hey, you guys want to live here? Just pay utilities." And talk about a dramatic. At the time, it was just a nice gesture,
Right.
I'm a nice man. But the consequences of that meant that I met my wife, who we are now in our 38th year this month, and with 3 grown, amazing children, and have established ourselves in our lives because of that, me moving to Monroe.
And you met her in high school.
In high school. And
So-
she didn't like me at first because I had an off-putting personality. And that's kind of how I treated girls that I thought were cute and wanted to have relations with, right? I was just kind of, I don't know why, and just a stupid kid,
Yeah.
but kind of mean to her at first. I had a bald head because I was on the swim team, and I wasn't anything to look at, and so she was very smart and very, a very smart, driven person. She was going to be a physician even in high school.
Wow.
And she was vying for valedictorian, and I always say that I was at the top half of the bottom half of our class. I did just enough to stay eligible to play football. And so there was no conceivable reason why she would be attracted to me, but went the whole summer. And this is the end of my junior year. So we went the whole summer, no contact. And then I was in the training room during the football season getting some treatment on my shoulder, and had my shirt off and had hair. And that physical attraction was enough to start us. We started dating, and that was our
So
story.
you're destined, kind of. So.
Yeah, I really believe that. I had a hard time with God's providence in my life. I thought, things happen for a reason. That felt safe. God's providence felt invasive, like I'm not controlling my life anymore.
Right.
And realizing that now that I'm really not. But at the time, and if you connect these dots, so then we went away to college, and she went to Iowa. I went to Buena Vista. So long distance relationship in the 80s, where you don't have texting, you don't have FaceTime, you don't have cell phones, they're doomed.
Storm Lake.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, exactly. Storm Lake. And but we made it through that. And then I quit school after 2 years of double major of football and beer drinking, not necessarily in that order. I quit school because there was I was a horrible student. Obviously, that doesn't bode well for a college. And I started sweeping the floor at my uncle's sign company in Des Moines and working on my own alcohol career, and she stayed. She's from a family of academics, and people who have advanced degrees, and they were trying to convince her to maybe cut her ties, and she stayed. And I joined the Navy when that wasn't a cool thing to do. You know, that was what you did when you couldn't do anything else.
How old were you in the Navy?
I was 21 when I
21 you joined.
Yeah, when I went in, I was 21.
Did you do basic training in Chicago or
San Diego?
San Diego.
Yeah, everything in San Diego. So I asked her. I was in boot camp. I asked her to marry me, and she agreed. She picked up her life. She quit college. She
Amazing.
drove to San Diego to start a new life with me, and I immediately started buzz training for SEALs. And
what did you know about SEALs before you signed up?
I heard you had Matt on and some others that had been through the program, and they knew some things. I knew nothing. It was top secret at the time. This is 1988, so it was still completely top secret. The first I had ever heard of the word SEAL associated in that way was when we were in boot camp, and our company sat us down in this auditorium, and a SEAL recruiter came in and talked to us. And I literally looked at my friend and said, what is that? Is that a swim team? I don't know what that is. But it was very intriguing enough that I applied, and because of my test scores and because of my physical agility scores, I was accepted into the program, and that's all I knew about it. So when I got there, that was quite an eye-opener.
What was it like?
It was.
I mean, how would you describe it to anybody?
It was the physical part was tough. I mean, you're running 20 miles a day. You run everywhere you go. You don't, there's no walking involved. It's all running. You run over to chow. You run back to the barracks. You run out to this evolution. You run back. You run down the beach. I heard Matt talking about it on here, and that's a very accurate description. You're always on the move. You're always on the go. You look at your day and you're like, how did we just do that? I don't know.
Carrying poles, the boats,
everything, boats on your head, the whole 9 yards. But it's the psychological part of it that is the hardest part. That's what will get you. That and the cold
water
will get you. Those two things.
There's no way to condition yourself for cold water.
No, I don't think so. I know people they jump into ice baths and whatever else they're trying to do. Cold, now they've got cold plunges. Everybody's doing the cold stuff.
Right.
But it's not the same thing. I got hypothermia on a 2-mile ocean, and I was a swimmer, so I was strong in the water, and I got hypothermia on a 2-mile ocean swim, and just about the doctor said had I been in the water another, I don't know, minute, 2 minutes, that would have been it for me. And that was a big eye opener for me, and that was part of the reason I didn't make it through. I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about my wife, and she was going to be going off to medical school, and my mind started turning. And when your mind starts turning in that way and you're trying to do this very difficult thing, you're probably not going to last. And it's voluntary. You can quit anytime you want.
Hypothermia, where you're just getting slowed down.
Your whole body is shutting down from the cold. And it was it was a 2-mile ocean swim on that particular day. The current was ridiculous. I mean, you could see fish they weren't even swimming, just shooting underneath you. That's how hard the current we were pushing against. And for some reason, everything together, you think Pacific Ocean, you think warm. It's not warm.
Not in California.
It's cold, and but that particular day it got me. So they dragged me over to the hospital, and I was in and out of consciousness several times, and I could see these doctors and medical people running around and screaming this and screaming that, and they had blankets and heating lamps on me and a bunch of stuff. And then by noon, I was back with my class. Back running and yeah.
Put you right back out.
Yeah, so it's otherworldly when you're there, and I'm thankful that now that I didn't go through with it because I gotta be honest, the divorce rate in the SEALs is. I had one of my closest friends. He had a divorce. He did 26 years in the SEALs, and he got divorced. Most of them do. It's in the 90 percentile of divorce. For them. So I'm thankful now, but I carried that. The more they became known, and the more movies and books and TV shows and missions that were successful, the more my shame started to grow and regret that I quit. Not that I necessarily wanted to be a SEAL, but that I let them get the best of me. I didn't like that at all. It bothered me. So I spent 37 years chasing down what I could do that would be very, very hard.
Right.
And it was going to be the Appalachian Trail. It's 2,200 miles, takes 5 to 7 months. It's 500,000 feet of climb. throughout the trail. 20-25% of the people make it. I thought that would level my playing field. So I was preparing. I was getting close to starting that trip, and then I realized I can't be away from my family.
Were you trying to
long.
punish yourself?
No,
Mentally.
I was trying to forgive myself for quitting that.
So
And I thought if I found the hard enough thing to do, I would do that, and then that would erase the slate for me, and I'd be okay. Well, there's no way that would have been the case. I would have just probably made things worse.
It's never high enough. Mount Harvard's 14,000. You need to go to 16.
Right.
Mount Everest, or
yeah,
it
would have kept going,
Yeah.
and so I went from that when I realized I couldn't be away from my family that long, because I'd been on deployment for 10 months in the Navy away from my wife, and that was hard, really, really hard. So then I decided, okay, there are 14,000 foot mountains, there are 58 of them in Colorado. I'm going to summit every one of them, and I decided to start with Mount Harvard, and I talk about this as kind of a seminal chapter in the book. But Mount Harvard it's 14,421 feet, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's the fourth largest mountain, tallest mountain in the contiguous United States, and I think the third highest in Colorado. And I started with that one for two reasons. Number one, my son graduated from Harvard earlier that year. And it was very hard for him, economics degree, and he was a grinder, and he grinded through that. Tough for him. I thought, homage to him, I'll start with Mount Harvard. But the other reason was because of the regret I was feeling, and what I wanted to prove to myself, which God never gave me that burden. I put it on myself, and I had to realize that after putting myself through that, driving almost 1,800 miles, round trip, and hiking a 14,000 foot mountain, I got a message from God who said, why are you doing this? And strangely enough, it was in a bathroom on the way back from the trip. I wanted a message on the mountain.
Right.
I asked him for one. I said, please give me something on the mountain. Nothing.
But he did help you with telling about their wedding ring.
Oh, yeah.
This is kind of cool on the way up.
So on the way up, I left at 6 a.m. I had circled August 14th, 6 a.m. I left right at sunrise. And I'm hiking with another group who are breaking off, with about a mile into the hike, they broke off, and they went to a different mountain. But there was an grizzled old guy he'd been on probably every mountain out there. And he said, "You going to Harvard?" And I think he could tell that I wasn't, I'm not in my element right now in these mountains. Even though I love the mountains, I'm not in my element. And I said, "Yeah, I'm going up to Harvard." And he goes, "You going by yourself?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Can I give you a bit of advice?" And I said, "Sure." He said, "Take off that wedding ring." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Up at that altitude, you'll see what'll happen to your hands." And people have actually have fingers removed. It cut off the circulation long enough that, and thank goodness he did, because once I got up there and I looked at my hands, not only were they blown up like, a glove that you can blow up, a rubber glove. That's how big they were. My fingers were red and my knuckles were white. And had I had that ring on, I'd know that so I'm kind of fond of my fingers. So I decided to take it off, and thank goodness I did say, when I looked at my hands, I said, "Oh, thank you, mister. I don't know who you are, but thank you for that advice."
Somebody's watching over.
Oh yeah, they were definitely.
Yeah. And the pressure, is that what the
Oh,
pressure?
it was it's just the altitude and then the dehydration. I ran out of water. I took an extra liter of water than what they recommend. They recommended 3. I took 4. I said, "Okay, I'll take 4." And my pack was, 30, 35 pounds. And I thought, well, that'll be fine. I ran out of water with 5 miles left. And now I'm by myself and I need water. And that brought on anxiety, and I'm concerned now. But really, I kind of equate that in the book to how that really exposes what you rely on and what you believe in. And it really kind of shapes. I didn't realize this until I said that God didn't give me anything on the mountain. He did. He gave me this, because when I got home, I started to reflect on this and how the wilderness can really crack you open with regard to what you believe in and what you rely on and what you want to have happen versus what you really need to rely on,
What happened in the bathroom? You were just getting into that.
Oh,
You got down off the mountain.
yeah. So I completed the hike. I was able to get back, and I immediately drank 2 liters of water in my car. And then I went back to Leadville in my crappy roadside motel, and I ate an entire pizza. And I got nothing. I had no sense of accomplishment. I had nothing that I would have expected from just completing the hardest hike I'd ever completed. Nothing. I felt sad. I felt lonely. I wanted to hug my wife. And I didn't understand it. I got this melancholy, and I didn't get it. And I was really disappointed. So I got up the next morning. It was probably, 3 a.m. I had to get out of there. I wanted to go home, and just this calling to go home. So I left, and about 2 miles outside, I think it was Hudson, Colorado, I had to stop again. I drank a ton of coffee, and I pulled off, and I'm limping to I'm sore and limping to the rest area. And just out of the blue, I just heard this voice in my head, and it said, "Why are you doing this?" And what does that mean? I don't even know what that means. So I went and used the bathroom, and I'm walking out. As I'm getting back on the interstate, I got the rest of it. It said, you have everything you could want at home. You have a roof over your head. You have a family who loves you. You have a wife who loves you. You have friends. You have everything you could want. Why are you chasing something down from 37 years ago that you regret? Stop. Let it go.
Wow.
So on the way back, you don't, a rest area bathroom. That's where I got it.
So you're in an extreme event,
Yeah.
which you could live or die. I suppose you could get obviously in serious trouble with that.
It could have been very bad.
Sickness,
Yeah,
all kinds of
all
stuff going on.
Yeah.
You make it through it, but not till the next day in the night.
Yeah.
Going to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And a bell rings.
Yep.
Going, hey, Bill.
And that just told me
enough of this.
Yeah, you don't get information like that when you want it on your time. It's on God's time.
Right.
And I have come to appreciate that. And my waiting season now is formation. It's not, I don't feel abandoned anymore. I feel like, okay, he was forming me over 58 years before I gave myself over to Jesus. That's a long time. The Israelites only wandered for 40 years. I waited 58. I don't know what that says about me, that it took him 58 years to prepare me.
Right.
But he did. And when he did, then I wanted to show you this. I brought you something else. I brought you another copy of the book if you want it.
Yeah.
But I also brought you, what I wanted to show you was, this was the book that started everything for me. I don't know if I'm putting it in the right spot.
And you found that at church at Grace?
I found this at Grace Community.
Okay.
This was sitting. We have a sort of a Bible, not a Bible, but I mean biblical writings and things that can help. Shelves outside in the narthex area of our church, right outside.
And you've seen it 100 times.
I walked by this thing at least 100 times, and on this particular, there's nothing particularly amazing about this. There's no marketing tools. It doesn't light up. It's just a little 34-page booklet.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
For some reason that day, it said, pick this up, pick it up and open it. And I opened it, and I just want to read you the first line. This is the thing that completely changed everything for me. This one line. It says, this is the first line of the book. It is probably safe to say that humility is the one character quality that will enable us to be all Christ wants us to be. I could have read that 1,000 times before that day, and it would have meant nothing, and I would have set this thing down. But on that day, it was organized in a way, and I got some discernment from God that said, it explained it. And what that means to me is that humility is the pathway. That's the gateway to being all that God is calling you to be, which means that pride is blocking all that.
Were you humbled on the mountain?
That came actually after this. So I had already started my walk.
Oh.
I was already in prayer.
Okay.
But I was still in pride. I mean, it was still, I have to fight with that every day.
Right. So you'd read the book before you went up mountain.
Oh yeah, this started everything. This was about a year. I would say probably last March, April, sometime frame in there when I picked this up. And then so when I read that, this goes on to talk about there are 30 manifestations of pride.
Can you read some of them?
Yeah, anything from complaining against or passing judgment on God, lack of gratitude in general, anger. It talks about talking too much. It talks about sarcasm. It talks about being unteachable. It talks about asking for forgiveness, and on down the list. There are 30 of these things. And then there's also this numbered scale that you apply to it to see how many of these things are impacting your life in a negative way. After I read the first line of this book, I donated the $10, took it home, and I read through the whole thing twice. And then I did the numbered scale. I had significant issue with 17 of the 30 manifestations of pride. I had no idea. I looked at my wife when I saw that, and I said, this is going to be hard. And it was. There's nothing easy about this faith walk, and especially when you first start. And then that's not even the worst thing. Then there are 24 manifestations of humility that counter the pride. I was lacking in 2/3 of those. So I was so far off course. I needed such a course correction, and this is the book, and I want to give you that. That's for you. If you maybe you don't need it, maybe you don't, but I'll tell you, that's the one that opened me up completely. And that's when I started. And then the interesting thing is, once I read that, God gives you more information, right? The very next week, Brooke Simpson, our pastor, they were doing, they have people come up on occasion just to give their testimony and things like that. Well, he brought up a veteran and talked to him. And boy, could I see myself in this guy. And he talked literally about that thing, about his pride and about how it got in the way of his relationship with his wife and his family and, his friends and everything. And then Brooks talked about his own anger issues. And both, that's a manifestation of pride in there as well that I dealt with. And I could just see myself in those guys. And then I started to realize how many people that I know, men in particular, are just loaded with pride and don't even realize it. So at that point, I reached out to church leadership, and I said, if you're interested, I would like to create a Bible study on this book. And I created they were on board, and I created a 10-week Bible study. And this fall, that kicks off at church. So I'm thrilled about that, and I think that's going to help a lot of people at least open their eyes and begin to examine, their own pride.
What are some evidences of pride? Selfishness?
Yeah, it's all self. It says in there, he talks about it. It's self-promotion and self-aggrandizement and self-righteousness is one of the worst. And if you can see that all over the Bible, all over the Word, it talks about that's taking the hell express when you're self-righteous. So you're performing in a way, you're being performative. Right. So people see you. You're not. This is coming from It's
not really you.
No, you're not. This is not a walk with God and with Christ. This is you performing and that's how I was. I talk about it in here. For 20 years, I went to a different church, and it was all performative. I was a Sunday school teacher. I was a deacon. I was an elder. On paper, I was a great Christian. But I wasn't praying. I wasn't in the Word at all, other than to look up Bible scriptures to teach. I had no relationship with Jesus at all.
Did being in the Word change you, or did it help?
100. It completely transformed everything. It began to coalesce parts of my life. Like I could see myself, like God's providence, right? I could see that the idea that I have in here of chapter 1 about having 4 fathers, not one father, but 4.
Adam, your own father,
God the Father, right? Our Creator,
right?
Adam, which creates our fallen, sinful nature, right? Jesus, creating our redemption,
right.
and guiding our identity and our direction, and then our earthly Father, who would then create our filters and our they're called psychologists call them. They're identities that you gain from your parents, and sort of, are you the achiever? Are you the quiet one? Are you the, all of those things that we carry with us, So that all came together being in the Word. That all came together reading people like Charles Spurgeon, reading people like William Law, like Andrew Murray, you get into these guys, and the amazing thing is they're from sometimes 2 and 3 centuries ago, but they're saying the exact same thing.
Tell us about Duomo, the app, and then David.
Yeah. So what I realized is that God is not always bringing burning bushes, and you know, obviously with my encounter in the restroom, you know, that's not where it always happens, and that's not how it always happens. I was on Facebook one time, and I saw this quiz, who's your spiritual mirror, right? And I almost went by it, but who can resist a good quiz, right? So I took the quiz, and David was my spiritual mirror. And I thought, wow, I'm not talking about, and I say in the book, I'm not talking about David Bowie or you know, any of those. I'm talking about David, the complicated one, the warrior, you know, but also the shepherd, you know, the king, and very complicated, but they come in these daily guides, you know, about yourself, and it was really just it just shined a light on me in such a big way. So, you know, I was worried when I took this quiz. I say in the book that I was worried that this was just the algorithm trying to get me to buy something, and algorithm 1, bill nothing. That's exactly what it was. But I spent for the 4-week program, and wow, what I got out of that was incredible.
Daily messages.
Daily messages, and just
so you
guidance.
can relate to them.
Yeah, they are tailored to you. So
based on your quiz.
Based on your quiz, and it's an extensive quiz. So it hit me right between the eyes, and it formulated a lot of my thoughts and moving forward, and applying some of the stuff in there. I used to apply in the Bible study. It talks about putting off the old self and what that really means, and putting on the new self. And so I apply that to some of the lessons in the Bible study as well.
David was a warrior, right? Part of it.
He was a warrior. He's the one that took on Goliath when nobody else would, with a stone and a sling. And he was anointed king as a child, but he was put back in the field as a shepherd because God was preparing him. And then he was chased around by Saul. For trying to kill him because he knew.
And he could have killed him in the mountain or in the cave, right?
Yeah.
He didn't do it.
No. He was anointed, but the point that I get from the story, and the most amazing thing, is that he was being prepared. And if you look at the key Bible figures, you look at Abraham and you look at Moses, they were all being prepared.
Right.
And they weren't given something right away. God's not going to give you something right away. He's going to get you ready for it. And there's going to be time. Abraham and Sarah with Isaac, you know, he was promised this. Look up in the sky, look at the stars. This is going to be your, you know, all of your legacy. And there was almost 200 years between them before Isaac came along. So that's what was fascinating to me about other things about David, that I could see myself, you know, with his pride but also that he was able, when God called him out, he was able to repent, and he was able to take on that reproof and repent for it. So,
major sinner too.
Yeah, major. I mean, with Bathsheba, right? He sent his big general out to be killed so he could have her. And then when he got called out on it, Psalm 51, you know, he just, that if you want to read how to repent, read Psalm 51, because he really lays it out, you know.
Yeah, it's amazing.
He really, really is feeling it.
Hey, I skipped over this a little bit, and you might have hit it. Tell us a little bit about your family. Is your wife's name Mia? She just seems fascinating to me. I know, you know, I follow some Warren Buffett things, and he's always talking about the most important decision you make in life is who you marry.
100%.
And just think about what that, to me, he's a very wise guy, Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
It's not just financial stuff and long-term holds and all that stock stuff. It's who you marry. Think about that.
Yeah.
Think about how you're destined. You meet her in high school. She stayed with you.
Yeah.
You're out in California. Hey, come out and marry me. She does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing woman.
Gave up her college career for that.
Right.
You know, at least, well, put it on hold.
Put it on hold.
She is, God, that's one of the greatest gifts God has given me is her. I mean, she's my rock.
Yeah.
She's been my example of how to be a grown-up, about how to be mature, about how to, you know, live your life and she is a great example, and I value and appreciate her and love her more and more every day.
Does she practice medicine?
She did. For 25 years, she was with the OB-GYN Associates of Iowa City.
Okay.
And she retired 4 years ago, I believe.
Okay.
And so we're both retired now.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know how many thousands of babies she delivered locally. You know,
each one's a miracle.
Each one's a miracle.
Every one.
And she, but she finished up and she's just living her best life now.
Right.
You know, we both are, and it gives us time. She volunteers at the free medical clinic now. I think a couple times a month, and
great thing.
So yeah, she and we're obviously we go to church together, and we talk about our faith and different. We just got into a discussion the other day about Jesus narrowing down all the laws of Moses down to two, right? Love your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and then love your neighbor like you love yourself, right? And we talked about that. So we get into conversations about that stuff, and we get together with our kids when we can. Two of them one's in Missouri. Will lives in Missouri, and
he's your youngest?
Yeah.
He wrestled at Harvard?
He wrestled at Harvard, yeah.
I think I've met him. Then who are your other children?
Morgan is the oldest, and she chased me into law enforcement as much as I told her, don't do it, don't you dare do it, and she just ran right into it. She did that for, 3 or 4 years, and then she transitioned. She was at Cedar Falls, so they do fire as well. They're cross-trained in fire. So then she went to be a firefighter, and she did that for a couple of years. And now she's working in the medical field, still living in Cedar Falls, looking for different work. Excuse me. And she's got a big heart, just wants to do right by people. And, her love language is giving gifts. She loves doing that. So she's great. Rachel lives at home with us. She just finished her master's degree in education, art education. She got a job at Kennedy for the fall. So she'll be teaching art at Kennedy. And then, and she's been great to have. We've had her for the last 2 years, and she's been, she lives in our basement. She's got her own little apartment down there, and we get her dog, Rosie. So it's awesome.
So before we get into the book, your journey was, you're in the Navy, you got out law enforcement. Yeah. Then you were a teacher.
Yes.
And then a football coach.
Yes. And
then a stay-at-home father.
Yes.
And you said that was your most.
That was.
Tell us about that.
Well, and I write about that. That was a big transition for me, because I went from the military to corrections. I was a corrections officer at Oakdale IMCC. And then I transitioned to Iowa City Police Department for 4 years there. But our hours were so wild that it wasn't conducive, to a good home life. So I quit, went back to school, finished my degree, and then I became a teacher and a coach. And for 2 years, I just poured everything into somebody else's kids and neglected my own and their mother and my wife. And
your wife woke you up with that, right?
She hit me with that because she was dealing with not only this insane medical career, but dealing with every aspect of our house. We had young kids. Our oldest was in kindergarten, and we had 3. So she's dealing with overnight childcare. She's dealing with groceries. She's dealing with bills. She's dealing with everything. And she knew how much it meant to me to teach, but she couldn't do it anymore. And she said, this is it. You're going to have to be a stay-at-home. And I was bitter, and I was angry, and I felt blindsided because I didn't realize it. She just kept it from me because she's so strong. But eventually, she just couldn't keep up that pace anymore. And I quit. I quit. I thought about saying, well, forget it. I'm not, but I love her too much. I couldn't do that. I couldn't do it to my kids. Broken home. We're both from broken home. Know what that does to kids. And so I quit. But I spent a year being very bitter about it. And then God shook me awake and said, what's your problem? You get to be with your kids every day. You get to formulate them and be with them and see them grow. What is your problem? And after that happened, and I got realigned that way, I leaned into it, and it was the most difficult and the most rewarding job I've ever had, of all the things.
Did you train with Will when he wrestled?
I did early on, but he passed me up quickly. And when he really just took a huge leap was his sophomore year at West. His drilling partner every day was Nelson Brands.
Oh,
So you either get way better or you just get ground into the mat,
right.
you know,
right.
and he got better. He got better and better and better. And then you could really see that's how that sport works.
Yeah.
If you want to get better, you go find the toughest person in the room and you work with them,
Right.
and you will get better, but it's going to be miserable. And he was miserable. He got beat up on every day.
Right.
And
he went to Harvard and wrestled? Or?
He went to Harvard and wrestled. He finished high school. An interesting thing about his high school career, his junior year, I think he potentially maybe could have even been in the finals, but he tore his ACL at conference, and he demanded to finish the season. He finished 6th on a torn ACL, which I thought was double tough. And then he got surgery right away. 7 months later, he's back on a football field for West, and then finished his senior season of wrestling and won a state title. And then a week later, COVID was shutting everything down, basketball, everything. So within a week, he got in that opportunity to win that state title with a week to spare. Yeah.
Well, that's destined.
Yeah. And then he went on to Harvard and wrestled there. And I think he it kind of ran its path. He had a lot going on at Harvard, and it was difficult. And so by the end of his junior year, I think he was done. And he reached out to the coach and he said, "Look, there aren't scholarships for the Ivies." So, he didn't feel obligated to stick around. And he's, if you're not loving that sport, you probably shouldn't do it because it will eat you alive.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So I want to swing into the church thing. For 20 years, you said you were kind of going through the motions. Were you a deacon? Were you a Sunday school leader, church leader?
I was every position. I started at Sunday school, taught all 3 of my kids through Sundays, not all the way through, but my portion of it. And then I was a deacon, and then an elder as well.
And then COVID hit.
And then COVID
you just said that's enough.
Yeah, COVID hit, but again, I didn't really have a true relationship with Jesus, and so COVID hit, and that was my off ramp because we couldn't go to services anymore, and I'd kind of disassociated a little bit. I wasn't really feeling it anymore. It was kind of all performative at that point. It was a job, and so
you weren't inspired on Sunday.
No, not at all. I would look at the clock. I would watch the clock and just couldn't wait to get out of there.
Yeah.
So COVID hit, and we weren't going to watch them online. So we quit going to church for like 3 years. And then it was my wife who finally said, I want to go back. And I said, well, all right. So we decided what I called church flirting is what we did. We didn't want to go back to the old place.
Right.
So we were looking around, and I knew Brooks' history, and I knew I played football against him back in, he was at Newton, I was at Lincoln.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I knew his wrestling piece, and that always intrigued us too, because we're big wrestling fans, Iowa wrestling fans. And so we tried it, and in true Brooks fashion, if you've never seen one of his sermons, they're on YouTube, and they are powerful. And it looks like not only is he's looking directly at you, he's talking to you, but looking at you as well. And that's how I felt. He was speaking into my heart. And I said, I don't know how you feel. I said, but after one time we went, I said, we found a new spiritual home, and we never looked anywhere else. Yeah, it was Grace Community from then on. The congregation, it's full. There's a lot of people, a lot of lively programs, a lot of things going on there.
And every Sunday you learn something.
Every
and you're in the Word, and you hear things.
Every Sunday.
And you can apply it to your life, your family, your kids, right?
Yeah, I'm on my phone with notes. I'm taking notes during the entire sermon. I have a whole year's worth of notes now that just, from him and from the other 2 pastors that get up there as well. There are 3 pastors that preach, but it's mostly him. But we have 2 others, and you're pulling something out of it every single week. Yeah.
So let's get into the book.
Sure.
This is been fun. So when the Father comes out to meet us, a little bit about the prodigal sons, but however you want to start that. So the first question, I want to show the book again. Austin's
Thank you
got
for
it
that.
up. Why'd you write the book? What was your motivation? I got some questions here I want to go through.
Well, again, it was never meant to be a book. It wasn't. I wasn't being called to write a book at the time. That was an 11th hour deal.
And you kept journal. You took notes.
I was journaling
your whole life.
Just I thought, this would be really interesting for my kids to see my faith journey, right? But then it started as I'm moving through this, and I'm getting discernment. I'm in the Word, and I'm praying, and we're in church, and I'm reading these other religious scholars and preachers. I'm starting to connect all these dots in my life, right? Not just when I gave myself over, last April, but way before. I could see God's fingerprints on what I was doing and him moving me in a direction, giving me an elbow nudge, like quitting the teaching and being a stay-at-home parent. And then him shaking me awake and saying, hey, why are you complaining, right? Yeah. So I started putting these things together in sort of chapter form. I thought, well, this is going to be great for my kids to be able to, they know dad to now, but they don't know the guy before, and they don't know the kid. So I'm going to put it out there, and I'm going to give this to my family, my children, and let them see who I really am, and the faith journey too, because I want them to walk with Christ as well. So
you'd never written a book before.
Yes,
you have.
Yeah. The book "Live Like Ellyn, Love Like Ellyn" is about the Found family. Do you remember the situation back in 2011?
She was killed over it.
Yeah, and then 2 weeks later, her mom died of pancreatic cancer. And this family, if you know this family, if you don't know them, I hope everyone gets to know them, because they wrap their love around you and make you feel like the most important person in the world. Yeah. It doesn't matter who you are. And that's who this family is.
There's a movie about her.
Yeah. Well, the coach actually wrote a book as well about the season.
Oh, yeah.
I wrote about the family, and the season was a seminal part of it, obviously, because of what happened afterwards. She was the leader of that team, and they lost their leader like 2 weeks before school started and their season started. Now they got to bring themselves together. They got to figure out her position. They got to do all of these things, deal with their grief. Yeah. And then they won another state title without her and dedicated it to her. And just the emotion behind that. But also, so I centered it around the father, and he initially didn't like that. But I said, look, you're here. They want to know. They want you to be, and your daughter and your wife will be, they are the banks in this river of this story. So they're always, just holding this together. But really, it's you walking through this and how you deal with it. And so anyway,
what's the name of it again?
Live Like Ellyn, Love Like Ellyn.
Okay.
And it was published by Ice Cube Press, which is a local publishing group here.
See if Oscar can pull that up. I'm going to show.
Yeah, there you go.
Because didn't they when the funeral for the daughter, the mother, they wheeled in a
yes,
she couldn't hardly walk.
That I talk about my dealing with grief and death, and I don't deal with it well. And then you have to death, but yes, they wheeled her in. She's in hospice. They didn't know if she was even going to survive the 2 weeks to get to this. They're rolling her down the aisle. They made her promise. I'm staying in a wheelchair. She grabbed the wheels halfway down the aisle, stopped the wheelchair, and got up and walked.
That's it.
And was reaching out and touching people. And
yeah, I mean,
I was a wreck.
Dry eye
I was a wreck, and I wasn't even there when it went down. There were 3,000 people at this kid's visitation. They had to do it at West High Gym because that's how popular she was. Yeah, she was everybody's best friend.
I remember reading about it. I didn't really know her. I wasn't connected with the volleyball back then. And
if you read that book, the first 10 chapters, you better have hanky or Kleenex close by, because it's just heart-wrenching.
How did the father get through it? Daughter and wife.
His faith. He's a believer in Jesus, and his faith, but also just sort of the strong person that he is, and he willed himself to be there for that team. He willed himself to be there for people who were just wrecked over this. He was at every game. He was at any kind of program or function, and that's how they were anyway with West High. I mean, they really were the de facto sort of parents. But
he's a physician also, right?
He was a prominent spine surgeon at the U. Yeah. People were coming from all over the place to get his special whatever he was doing. He had this technique that he was doing.
Was he working with Matt Howard and those guys?
Larry Marsh.
Orthopedics?
Yeah.
Orthopedic surgery.
Yeah. And but yeah, he was, and he's since retired. And this guy, you would not believe this guy. He gets his hands in everything. He started growing hops out on he lives on a farm just
Out
outside
west
of
of
yeah,
town,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Right.
And he was growing hops, and then he wants to learn the tuba, so he had my daughter teach him a little bit on the tuba, and just he's such a fascinating guy,
Yeah.
and just such a full of love, and just he's a great storyteller.
Well, that's also talk about faith. That's helped get him through it.
Yeah,
How else
huge,
would you get through it?
Huge.
I mean-
The book is very emotional, and it ends with me going a year later. Excuse me. A year after their deaths, they would go out and hike Mount Monadnock in New Hampshire every year as a family. They'd renew their vows out there every year. And there's a place called Cathedral of the Pines where they interred their ashes, and we had a service. But we hiked the mountain the day before, and that's the first hiking I'd ever done. And that was amazing. And that's really what set me off on my hiking sort of, not career, but hobby. And I've hiked thousands and thousands of miles since then. But that's how the book ends, is with that, and it's very emotional. And yeah,
I'm glad you mentioned that book.
yeah,
So back to your book.
yes,
So, you talk about why you wrote it, and that's kind of where we left off.
yeah. So I I wrote this. I had some people read it, and I had people. My goodness, froggy voice. Had people read it of different faiths, either walking with Jesus and having strong faith or no faith, because I didn't want it to be preachy. I didn't want it to be any of those things like a sermon. I'm every man, and I wanted it to come off like that.
Well, you did. It does come off like that.
But it's dealing with, the reason I decided to turn it into a book was because I was called to it. I felt the calling, and people were saying, maybe you ought to turn this into a book, because it really did touch me in a way and made me think about my own life. And I thought, okay, maybe I should. And then I went to Amazon, and they make it so easy to self-publish.
Really?
I mean, it is Kindle Publishing Direct or something like that is what it's called. And you get on there, and you just take your manuscript. You can do it on Kindle, and there's a certain format for that. And then you make a PDF. For the paperback, you pick out the cover color. I had the picture already that was AI generated for the cover. You design the front cover, the back cover. You pick out the paper, and away you go. It's that simple. And
they edit it for you? Or?
No, I used for this book, for Live Like Ellyn, I paid like $3,000 to have it edited. But I used AI to help me edit. And that saved me a bunch of money. So I helped that helped tremendously. I believe they can. They have programs. They have all kinds of different programs. They can help you design your cover and all that stuff. But there's no out-of-pocket money. I did all this, and then they don't print it until somebody orders it. So they print it and send it out to them.
Really?
So yeah.
So if I were 10 today, they print them?
Yeah.
They don't?
Yeah. They print them and send them out. So there's no
No cost.
No, none at all.
Inventory.
So if you've ever considered writing a book, I highly recommend you do it, because they make it so very easy. And then so I was called to it, and it was easy to do, and I put it out, and here we are. It's really for I would say, who is this for? I would say it's probably for. The easy cop-out answer is we're all fallen sons and daughters of Adam, so it's for everyone. We're all sinners. But I can drill it down to the bedrock. It's for people who, like me, was a carnal. It's called a carnal Christian, where you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You keep, I believe in God and I believe in Jesus, but I'm going to keep you over here so I can stay over in my own little lane of, striving and all of the things that I think are benefiting me, but really hold me down. It's for them. It's for people who don't believe. It's for people who have questions. It's for people, it's for broken people, too. It's really for anyone, because like I said, I was striving to be somebody substantial, but I'm every man. I'm the things that are in here in this book, everyone's had probably questions and the same way and thought about these things. So that's why I think a lot of people will say when they read it, well, I see myself in this. Yeah. Well, yeah, you do, because you're me and I'm you. We're the same.
Do.
Yeah.
Anything specific in your life influence you to write it?
Well, my faith journey and the calling, but also that book
This book.
right there,
Again.
Stuart Scott, From Pride to Humility. I just realized in myself and in other people how many people that I can see this in and how many people can use this. And so I thought if I told my story, my life, and talked about my faith and my journey in that way, that maybe other people would look at it and start to examine their own, personal life and see, maybe they need a course correction. Maybe they didn't realize. I didn't realize I was hugely sarcastic. Like I could walk into a room and cut it to pieces and make people laugh. And that was what I was hiding behind. People would laugh, and I'd say, and then the people that I crushed because I'd made fun of them some way, I'd say, "Oh, I'm just kidding. I play rough." Well, that's pride. And I thought it was a virtue.
Yeah. There's a lot of control and pride.
Huge. That's what it is. It's self. I'm living for self. Everything for self. Everything for self.
Don't you see everybody does that? I mean, a certain extent.
I still do it. I talk about me writing this book. I didn't write this book.
Right.
I'm the vessel. God steered the boat.
Right.
That's what this is.
What was your inspiration in each chapter where you have kind of like you could sit down and you have scripture and then you get into how does that relate to
real
you?
talk.
Where did you get that? I love that.
So two things. One is from my teaching. So I like to teach. I like to motivate, and I could see it was building out the Bible study for this book. But the other one is what I do now as a volunteer. So I am with a group that's called Prison Fellowship Ministries. And I'm a volunteer coordinator, and we put on a friend of mine, and he turned me on to it. Actually, we go into Oakdale, literally the prison I worked as a corrections officer. I go in there now, and it's a group of 12 guys, and we go in the chapel, and it's an 11-month program, and it's a faith-based program. So we're working on a relationship with Christ as a bedrock that we can build on, and then they're looking at goal setting. They're looking at building a life outside of here, outside of these walls, and a productive life, and a life with family, and a life with forgiveness, asking for it and giving it to people. They reach out throughout this program. They start out and they just want something to do, really, more than anything. A lot of them
initially,
they come in, and then all of a sudden, through this program, it's been since 1976. I think it's the 50th anniversary. Chuck Colson is who started it. He was an aide to in Watergate,
and he went to prison
did some time. Well, when he was in prison, then he wrote an autobiography. And when he was in prison, he came out. He realized, I'm leaving these guys behind. I got to do something for them, and started this program. But it is transformed. It's 11 months. We go in twice. My friend and I go in once a week. We go in Fridays, but there's another group that goes in on Wednesday. So they get it twice a week. Different information that's been built out over years through psychologists and through faith and through religious leaders. And they've taken all this and they've created this amalgam of information. And it's strategies of how to deal with things that can trip you up, that got you in here to begin with. It's ways to set goals for a meaningful life when you get out there with your families, or for yourself in your community. And you see these guys and they start this transformation, and by the end they are flying. They have created their own little groups, Bible study groups. They're reaching out, mentoring other guys in there. They've reached out when they can to their victims and tried to make amends with them and apologize, reached out to family and reconnected with them. And what I say is, people ask me, well, why do you want to go in and hang out with these guys? Yes, I do, because I realize the people that they are, and they're me and I'm them, and they're in here and I'm not, but that's only by the grace of God, and that 95% of these guys are going to get out of here. So who do you want coming out?
Right.
Who do you want? Who do you want coming out, getting back into your community? You want vibrant people who are wanting to contribute, or do you want people who are just going to be in a revolving door prison life?
I imagine you learn a lot from them too.
Huge. I say to them all the time, I say, I want you to get more out of this than I get out of it. So far, I'm failing because I get so much out. I can't wait. I can't wait for tomorrow. Because we're going in tomorrow. I can't wait to get in with these guys. And they teach you a lot about life.
Well, I mean, in some of their environments they came from, and
it's striking.
Imagine.
It's striking. And then the transformation that they make, and they tell you these stories, and you see them make this move towards Christ, and that now suddenly they went, one guy in the last cohort. So we're in our second cohort at IMCC. This is only the second group. So we finished up with the first one, and one of the guys, he was so funny. He said, I said, what was your first impression when you started this program? He said, I thought it was a cult. He said, I was worried I was getting into a cult. And now at the end, he's leading prayers. He's quoting scripture. He's talking to guys in his cell block about this stuff, So it's amazing, amazing.
Who was Johnny Cash? He was in Folsom Prison.
Yeah. I don't think he was actually in prison, but he went to perform in prison. But he was in jail. He was a rabble rouser.
In trouble.
Yeah, troublemaker, and he found the Lord. And, yeah.
It's another one's kind of
see
amazing.
What he did. I mean,
So if you took, if in writing the book, if you had to take one thing that you want people to take from it, what do you think you'd say? One thing.
I want them to take from the book that this can happen to me. This can happen to anyone, this transformation. And I've got an internal peace now since I gave my life over to Christ. I can't even describe it. I used to wake up and just with the inertia of the day, be worried about stuff. I didn't even know what I was worried about. Just felt a doom each day.
Right.
And I wake up, and before my feet hit the ground, I ask God to guide me. Yeah. And when I go to bed, I still fall into those selfish desires and things. I've got the nightly repentance of prayers to prove it.
Right.
I ask to be better the next day.
Right.
I understand my position, and I understand the position of the one who created me, and that changes everything. And that's what I want. I'm supposed to come out and tell people about. This is me putting my faith out on my arm and exposing myself in a way, showing my underbelly, which is, my friend said to me when he read it, the one I do prison fellowship with, he said, this is extremely brave of you to put yourself out in this way. And I didn't even think about that. I didn't, until he said that. That wasn't a concern of mine. It would have been. Yeah. I never would have shown myself that shame that I have about quitting SEALs. I never would have. There are very few people that knew about that.
Right.
About
good leaders are vulnerable.
Yeah,
and you're definitely vulnerable there, and that's what makes it so authentic. That's why it's so readable and so.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it.
It's so impactful. It's just those are some cool things. I want to finish with three things in your life so far. Who's your hero? Tell us about your hardship and what's your highlight in your life so far. If you had to specify.
My hero is Jesus. I mean, if you look at his life and what he did and his preparation to the point where, and then he spent 3 years. That was it. His ministry was 3 years long, and then he was what happened, and that he took that cup. He prayed in Gethsemane, and then he said, "Is there any way I can not have the?" And he said, "No, you got to go." And he goes, "Okay, your will be done. Let's go." And he didn't hesitate. He lived a perfect life. He's the only one. He's the only one without sin on this planet, and we hung him up on a cross. Yeah. He's my hero.
If you watch the movie Passion of the Christ by Mel Gibson, 700, the beatings, and the thorn.
Yeah.
And they've kind of replayed that a little bit about how many puncture wounds. The shroud of, where they had some type of bright.
Jeremiah Johnston's a leading expert in that. Yeah, incredible.
I mean, the punishment of a crucifixion is the Romans. It's beyond, because we don't really. It kind of scares us. You just see a cross, but. There was nothing worse.
Well, and it was reserved for people who was reserved for slaves, and it reserved for people who spoke out against Rome.
Right.
Jesus did none of those things, but they punished him in the worst possible way and killed him in the worst possible way you can do it, and he accepted it. He just took it on.
Yeah. And then nobody else was resurrected, not Buddha, not any other religion.
That's it.
He was the only one, and I guess Gibson has another show.
There's another one coming out, a
I
movie.
think it's about the resurrection.
Yeah, the resurrection.
I can't wait for
very
that.
excited to see that.
Because you know how he depicts things. It's really
another great show is The Chosen. If you haven't seen that,
yeah.
Dallas Jenkins is he was a special forces guy and found he came to Christ and that is a fantastic show. I highly recommend that. That's Jesus and the Apostles.
So what about highlight?
I would say my greatest joy is my family. By on this earth, it's my greatest joy, and below God, because I can't love anything above God. But they are the love of my life, and I would do anything for them and lay down my life for them. And I say that with all honesty. I know people say that, and you would never know until you. But they're my greatest joy. My greatest highlight is probably. Well, I have a few that stick out. My marriage, my kids, and then finally my transition and giving my life over to Jesus was it's made a complete difference. It made me a better husband, a better father, a better friend, a better person to strangers, a better it just realigns everything. Renewal of your mind. That's what it says in the Bible. You need to renew your mind, renew your heart. And I've done that, and I feel great about it. Yeah.
You're working on every day being holy.
Yeah, for sure. And he's not done with me yet. So I kept writing. I mean, I'm still I'm 50 pages into something else. I don't even know what it's going to be. I don't know
well,
if
you're
it'll
gifted.
be a book. I don't know. But he just keeps speaking through me, and I just keep putting it down, and I'll stop when he tells me to stop. But right now, I'm just keep moving forward.
Keep writing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah,
hardship.
That's great.
Last but not least, your greatest hardship.
Hardship. I know I'm not doing myself or him any favors by saying this, but walking the path of righteousness is an every day, every minute, every hour thing. It's not something that they say that you get this free gift, and you do.
Yes.
But to walk that path, he says that the narrow, it's narrow. The entrance is narrow. The wide path is the path other people are on.
Right.
And to realize what is required of you to walk that path, it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, because it's all around us, everything all around us all the time. You're dealing with that, and you're still trying to walk this path. So when he pulled me off, and when I realize it, right away I'm like, forgive me, get me back on the path. Put me on the path. That's the biggest challenge I have, is staying on that path.
It's a mastery of the restart. Every day,
100%.
every hour, restart. Well, you got, and then to know when to ask for forgiveness. And another thing I just thought of real briefly, when the father comes out to meet us, you're talking about the prodigal son.
Yes.
And everybody's off on the son that went away and did all the things and took his father's inheritance and did
right.
And it's the one that stayed home. Can you just briefly hit that? Because that's so powerful, because we never talk about that son.
So quickly, I'll just mention that my friend and I get together every week before we go in to the prison, and we talk about things. And he knows Scripture way better than me. So he hit me with something, and he does this on occasion. He said, "Which son are you?" Talking about the prodigal son, because we forget about the older son. Yeah. But the older son is more dangerous because the older son stays.
He was entitled to it.
But he stays out of spite.
Yeah.
He stays out of this self-righteousness.
Right.
Right? He's bitter. He's angry. He considers himself a slave. That's what he says to his dad.
Right.
And when his brother comes home and his dad's so excited and they have this celebration, he won't go in.
Right.
He stands outside like this petulant child, and won't go in. And his dad comes out, "Please come in. Please reunite our family here."
Right.
But he left the family a long time ago.
Right.
He thought he was a slave. And his dad says, I everything that is mine is yours. You're with me all the time. He's like, "No, I'm just a slave." How sad is that? Yeah. And that's, I see myself in that too. I was that guy. I was the one that was, I would stayed, but I did it out of spite, out of bitterness, out of self-righteousness. I stayed, but I wasn't, I was angry about it. I wanted self-recognition like he wanted. And that's the one that really, I talk about it in the book and pretty extensively, but that's the one that really opened my eyes, because we always talk about the prodigal son.
Right.
The guy who was reckless, the guy who went away, and then he came back. But if I had to choose, I picked that guy.
Right.
You know, I want to be him because he came back
He was
humiliated,
Yeah.
completely, not expecting. He expected to be the slave
Right.
from his dad if he even let him on the property.
Right.
But he got a celebration. His dad was so happy and grabbed him. And that's kind of how I felt when I turned to God finally. I felt that embrace. I felt the grace, you know, the warmth of that. And just, you know, he waits for you.
Interesting part of the book is the two sons are all of us.
Yeah.
And the father's really God.
Yes.
He was always there.
Well, it's a parable. It is us.
Yeah. And
I love that they don't close the story out with the older son.
Because you don't know what happened.
You don't know. Does he ever go in? Does he ever, you know, complete that family commune or not? You know.
Yeah. So that's kind of why, you know, Don, you know, when the father comes out to meet us, well, he's there if you want to meet him.
Right. Yep. He's waiting. He's waiting.
Well, Bill, this has just been
Thank you so much. It's been great.
It's been fantastic.
You do a great thing here, by the way.
Well,
I
thanks.
really love this.
We have fun. Austin does a great job.
Austin
we
does a
love
great job.
But get this book, everybody, and I don't care who you are, what you are, where you're at in your journey and following Christ, whatever, faith, religion, children, anything. It's a fantastic book. And then I'm going to promote this too. I haven't read this one yet.
Yeah.
I'll probably dig in it tonight.
That one
in my chair going, hey, you better read this.
That one's a tough read, even though it's small. It's
because we all have a lot of pride.
We all have
self-righteous.
You'll see it. You'll see yourself in it.
Yeah. And to be able to recognize it, I think is a lot of this. Start to see yourself really what you are.
That's the first step. Is recognizing.
And then you can start to grow on it. And it's every day you got to rethink things, restart. I've got a good friend that walks 30 minutes a day. And he calls it a gratitude walk. Yeah. And he wants to talk about what he's gracious for.
I love it. That's
great. Think about it. We never really talk about it.
I might steal that,
friends.
actually.
Yeah. just go out and say, hey, the birds, the paths, the streams, the people. There's so much to enjoy, so 100%. Much to love. And we always get into the news and all this negative stuff that's going on. But just go out and have a gratitude walk.
Yeah, I love that.
30 minutes a day.
What a great way to put it. Gratitude walk.
Bill, this is absolutely fantastic.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
And buy the book. Maybe they'll run out of these here today if everybody's ordering them. Right?
And thanks for the opportunity to come in. Yeah. Well, yeah. That's great. Thank you so much.
Keep writing, and let's get another book. We'll do it next time.
I appreciate it.
Book.
Thanks a bunch.
Thanks.